Good morning, Aman. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're very excited to have you here today. First, let's start off by asking you where you're calling in from.
Oh, hi, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for having me here. And I'm Srivastava, a serial entrepreneur and angel investor from India.
Brilliant. We love India. We work with India quite frequently, and lots of great entrepreneurs and investors have been really springing up over the last 5 years. So we're very excited to dig in. So welcome everybody to the Supporters Fund Ask an Angel. I'm your host, Jeffery Potvin, and let's welcome our investor today, which is Aman Srivastava.
Srivastava. It's Aman Srivastava.
Brilliant. I love it. Welcome. So today, the way we like to get started is, can you please share a little bit about your background and where you've come from? I see that you're an MBA, which is brilliant. So you've got lots of great background. I'll let you start by just sharing a bit of insight about yourself, and then one thing about you that nobody would know.
Okay, first of all, namaste to all from Indian culture, and thank you so much, Jeffrey, for having me here. I'm Aman Srivastava, a serial entrepreneur and angel investor from India. We have a startup journey from 2016 for initial 2-3 years. I was an entrepreneur, and I'm still an entrepreneur. I consider myself a serial entrepreneur because I have founded more than 7 startups and invested in more than 7 or 8 startups till now. And we have a good panel of investor team, which and we love to invest in those startups who make some social impact. Like we have started with the vision of healing the nature with the help of technology. That is the theme of my first startup, Black Eye Technologies Private Limited. And we in India is considered as the healer of the nature with the help of technology, because we are in AI and IoT domain. I mostly invest in those startups who has some vision of and social impact on the natural resources like groundwater conservation, air quality maintenance. And this is all about myself.
Brilliant. And one thing about you nobody would know.
The nobody would know thing about myself is I'm a quite kind of introvert guy. This time I'm looking at an extrovert, but I'm quite an introvert guy. I deal with my problems on my own. And this thing of this nature of myself made me a good and successful entrepreneur.
I love it. Well, we carry very similar traits there. So I'm a big fan, and I've loved all the things you're doing. It's pretty interesting. And I want to kind of jump into some of that because a lot of the times we get a balance between the investor who is, working, running a business, but you've kind of taken this to a whole different level. You're doing something that is very extraordinary in the sense that you're using social impact and building companies inside of this space. What got you started in social impact? And from all the podcasts that I've listened to you that you've been on and all the interviews, just totally impressed by how you've taken this approach in order to solve the world's problem and helping the world heal. And I'd love to learn what got you started in this and why you decided to take this approach.
Jeffrey, from very start, when we were in graduation time, and we used to have a lot of friends, and we used to talk about these things like water, like air quality. The air quality index is very poor right now. The pollution is on very high level. People are consuming a lot of groundwater, extracting a lot of groundwater from the ground and not restoring the same. Me and my first co-founder, we thought that everybody is working for money. The basic, 110x valuation, 100x valuation, 10 million, 100 million, 1,000 millions, or billions, trillions of money. But nobody is thinking about this thing, that what happens if the Mother Earth will not be there? Will this money has that worth? And then we started that people in India or in any specific country, people has a habit that technology has ruined the nature. The technology is responsible for ruining the nature. They have cut in the trees and all. Then we have started with the vision of let this technology heal the nature with the help of its other segments. And we started to work on the first part that we have suffered, that was groundwater. We used to buy water at that time when we were in final year of our graduation, the final last year of the graduation. We have a habit to buy water. And we have to, because there was no source of that. One night, what happened, there was some electricity cut, and due to some maintenance problem, the water got stuck, and we got water after 2 days. For those 2 days, we have paid 4 or 5x money for the same water. and it was disaster for me. So then we thought that we should do something for this kind of purpose, for pursue this kind of vision, so that the next inheritance, next generation will remember us, that what we have left in for them in inheritance. In Hindi there is a word called virasat. That is the meaning of inheritance. So the next generation should remember us for this thing, that we have made a world, we have made a good place to live. So there will be no need to migrate to Mars.
No, I agree. I like that. And I think when it comes to social impact building and social impact investing, they're really important, and they're on the forefront of a lot of entrepreneurs, even investors, business people. There's a lot of talk going around on how we can improve, how we can change the climate. And there's a lot of crises that have been going on in the last little while, in the last couple of years, that have been really pushed to the forefront. And it does take entrepreneurs like yourself to make these changes and get behind them, so that others will start to make the same type of impact changes, which is, again, amazing that you're doing this. If we go back to some of the first earlier stage companies that you created, did you get a lot of learning from while you're in school, this type of background that you're building up? Did a lot of that go into your first companies that you built? And when you were building these companies, when did that impact side start to really flourish? When did you start to look at it and say, okay, you know what, this makes a big difference. Okay, I'm making money, but maybe we should look at making a difference instead. Was that part of those early stage companies, or is this kind of something more recent?
I'll start with the first startup that I have co-founded actually. It was Black Eye Technologies Private Limited, and the first product was Irrigation Alert 2.0. That startup, that particular startup, in that startup, we make smart devices for the quality irrigation in agriculture. With the help of that quality technologies, we are saving near about 40 to 42% of groundwater per year. And that is a lot. That is a lot for a typical kind of crop like paddy, rice, or wheat. So we were developing the POC, and we were at the very initial stage of making the proof of concept and the MVP, most viable products and all. What we have thought at that time, that we will make the POC, we'll make the MVP, we will present that to the investor, we'll get the funds. This is a myth. This is a myth. This is still a myth. This was a myth at that time too. First, you have to make the POC, MVP. Then you have to deploy it, do the paid trials or unpaid trials for a very long term of times, like 3 months, 7 months, 1 year. For us, it has taken 1 year, because it's what is in the field of agriculture. They need to test it for 1 year completely, for a complete cycle. Then you have to generate the reports. A very good thing about our government is, we have a very strong government in India that is being led by Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi. And the central government in India has helped us in this, to deploy this technology to each and every village in India, so that we can make a cluster of cloud which has the data of water efficient irrigation. So now this technology is being implemented in pan-India in all 6,08,323 villages in India. It's being implemented there. It is a complete hard work of 2-3 years. And coming back to the changing the POC and changing the MVP, upgrading the product. You know what we have done? There is an analysis called in entrepreneurship and building your startup. There is an analysis called Kano model analysis. Kano model analysis helps you to analyze your customer and take input from the customer. We have taken input from the customer that they generally don't need the data on or the information on irrigation. They need data on of the soil health also. Then we developed some other devices, some other technology in the same device, so that the soil health can be easily predicted. The basic thing, the requirement comes from the customer, that we believe in from that time. And this is the basic line why we are working, why massive dynamic engine network is working. This is the thing that we have learned from that part. And there is a lot of learning. Entrepreneurship is all about learning. There's nothing called, you can't guide anything. Everybody has a different journey, but what you can do is you can't repeat the same mistake that the other entrepreneur has done. So this can help in this way, but every entrepreneur has his own journey, definitely.
So in this journey that you're speaking of, and you created this company or co-founded this company, you mentioned that you were listening to your customers. Does your customer become the government, or does the customer become the farmer? Because the customer, it's like a dual-sided marketplace. So how do you evaluate what the government's looking to get accomplished? Because I'm sure that they are providing you with funds. And then how are you accommodating that data back to them while facilitating the benefit to the second customer, which would be the farmer that is making the irrigation work better, quicker, faster, and smarter?
Very wonderful question, first of all. Jeffrey, it's a very wonderful question. And most of the interviews, people ask me that your customer is the government or your customer is the farmer. I'll tell you, our customer is government through the farmer. First, we deployed the devices with the farmers. They have discussed a lot with, these technologies with the farmers and with the other farmers. Then they recommended us to go to this particular department, talk to the government officials, and they will deploy this technology to other people, because water scarcity is going to be the next biggest problem in the world. Then we went to government, and the government has supported us the same way. So till to now, we are selling the same product to the government also, to the farmers also.
Amazing. And this really does benefit not only your technology, but I think it opens up having the strong support by the Indian government, that they're allowing for the government to participate in this product and services that are, again, as you mentioned, saving the earth and helping farmers. So now they take a stronghold in position into helping you and pushing this product out. Does the government take a different stance as well? Do they invest in early stage companies? Do they provide bursaries? Do they provide ways to support the ecosystem?
Okay, thank you so much for asking this thing, Jeffrey. I'll tell you, there are too many schemes in Indian government, and this particular government is supporting entrepreneurship on a very large scale. They have made clusters of investors. They have made clusters of venture capitalists. They have made clusters of seed and seed grants, basically in the form of grants. For the first startup, Black Eye Technology, we have secured a very big amount of grant. Literally, I can't tell you the exact figure, but we have secured a very good amount of grant that can be a Series A funding for a startup. We have secured that kind of grant for startup. And our government under a Ministry of Agriculture, under Ministry of Water Department, because there is a different ministry in India for specifically groundwater conservation. There's a Ministry of Jal Shakti, there is Ministry of Health, there is Ministry of Transport. All those departments, all those ministries in central cabinet have a different department of startup funding. They give grants from, starting from $25,000, and it can go up to $1 lakh or $1.5 lakhs. Amazing. This kind of grant being provided by Indian government to Indian startups, and we are welcoming the foreign startups also. Like we have Dutch collaborations, we have collaboration with Netherlands, we have collaboration with Brazil, other DST collaborations are there. Those departments are taking the startup from other countries, making it in India, and then supplying the objects or the products to that specific country and giving the grants to them also. So this is a very big concept for Indian government.
It's amazing. And I think just you sharing that, the reason why I think that this really kind of changes the landscape is because you're also opening up that there's opportunity for startups that are in India to go to the government and figure out which area they fit in and to see what types of grants are there. And especially if it's around social impact, there's a big change that the Indian government's looking to help be behind and help these startups get off the ground. So that's pretty amazing to hear. And through that, how are the universities and technology colleges, and how are they supporting the ecosystem?
I'll explain on this part also. Most of the incubation centers in India is being run by the government universities. That's the biggest part. I'm not talking about the accelerators, not talking about the venture capitalists. I'm talking about the incubators, the people who are helping the young or the any kind of age people to make the technology, to develop a proper technology, to validate the technology, to test the technology, and do the paid pilots or unpaid pilots, whatever they want. So this is the very big thing, that the incubation centers are only being opened at a very higher kind of colleges or universities, or being handled by the government universities. Now, till now, we have a collaboration of near about 27 universities with us on a different project for a different startups. What they do, they start from your POC, they sign the non-disclosure agreement. After that, then they start working with you on your POC, the university heads, the professors, or I will say the retired federal agents, those who want to work a lot, now working for the startups.
That's amazing. So it's very circular. It has everybody kind of working with each other. And then as that knowledge is gained and passed, you're seeing government moving into that space because there's opportunities, there's growth. And I think that's very well supported. And I think that brings a lot of value back to the ecosystem. Very exciting. Very exciting. So now you guys have, it seems that you're well positioned. You're really working into this space of social impact. Now, let's dive into a little bit more. It sounds like you obviously have a very good understanding of how the government's functioning and working, how the universities, there's obviously Techstars India. There's a lot of big groups that have come in that are also trying to help support. So now coming in from the investor lens, what types of things are you seeing the government supporting for the investor side? Are they providing tax incentives? What are they doing to help support you as an investor, also as an entrepreneur, but as an investor? What things are they doing to support that side so they can keep building up the economy of scale in the entrepreneurial world?
Okay, I'll start from the investor perspective first. First of all, for the young investors like us, for the angel investors, for the young venture capitalist firms, for the young incubation centers, because now government has opened a portal from Startup India. They have opened a portal to open your own incubation center. So we have also established our own incubation center, and we have secured a grant in that perspective also to build a good incubation center for some startups. They are basically, the Indian government is in an investor. The Indian government is basically looking for that kind of incubator who is looking for social impact, who is looking for innovation. Not that you're making biscuits and it can't be innovative things. It must be an innovative product to get investment from government. Now coming to the startup, government is investing in any kind of startup. If you have just the will, and if you have the will to make an impact on the society, it doesn't matter the innovation is social or not social. But if you are making an impact, generating the employment, then you are ready for the grant. These two factors are looking for the investors, and these two factors for the startups.
That's awesome. That's great. So it sounds like, and this is what I find interesting about this, is that in most countries, the government takes kind of a side role. They're there, but they're not really making much of an impact. And it sounds like India's government, and I would say being late to the game in startup world, in entrepreneurship, has really stepped up in the last couple of years to really push innovation and push social impact. So it sounds like they're very supportive and doing everything they possibly can to create jobs, create new wealth, and being able to support the whole ecosystem from the investors all the way through to universities and government.
I'd like to include this thing in this interview. Earlier, it was not that easy in India. But actually, the government is quite continuous in this perspective, and we got slow due to COVID also. COVID has impacted us a lot. I must say that government has successfully implemented a complete ecosystem for the investor and for the startup. I can secure a grant of $10,000 easily by sitting in this room with the help of this only laptop, if I have the vision to crack that. Now, coming back to some FDIs, if I talk about the FDIs, the government has made policy which is very easy and which make the foreign investors very close to work with the Indian startups and the Indian investors. Now, coming back to some taxation parts, we have some tax redemptions, and the startup in India who is registered with the Government of India Startup India program, near about till now, we have more than 55,000 startups in India at Startup India platform who has an income tax redemption for next 7 years.
Wow. No, that's amazing.
Access to that portal. Now, coming to the investor part, we have an income tax reduction for next 3 years. Oh, we have a complete ecosystem in India now.
Oh, that's fantastic. So how does it work from the investor standpoint when making an investment into a startup? Do you get over that 3 years, do they cover all of your initial dollars that you put in through the tax side of things, or is it provided matching? What type of things do they do to benefit you and the startup?
It depends, Jeffrey. It depends what kind of startup I'm investing. If I'm investing in a woman entrepreneur, woman-led startup, if I'm investing in a woman-led startup, then the first 2 years there is no tax for an investor. If she's paying you ROI or not, there's no tax for me. And if I'm working with some young startups in India, like some those startups whose owners are students. So for that, I have some redemptions. So it's work like this, segment by segment. There are 18, 19 segments for investing rules there from Startup India portal. And if I'm investing through a venture capital firm, then there is a very strict law for taxes and all. That part is there already.
Awesome. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of interested people when they listen to this to learn that they can go after some dollars, that there's a lot of government support if they don't already know. And it sounds like Startup India is the place to be with all of the amount of startups that are in the program. I think that's brilliant. And, it's interesting. I've traveled around the world to see startup scenes, and the government that gets behind the entrepreneur and gets behind and gets part of that scene makes a big impact and changes the landscape. And, anywhere from Chile to Chihuahua, Mexico, now India, Israel, I find that these areas all have such a dynamic way of helping investors and helping startups build up, when I believe they realize that anywhere from 90 to 95%, and even sometimes bigger, that their environment is made up of entrepreneurs and startups, and that it is so impactful to make these progressive changes that they can see this really benefiting the economies of scale in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. So it's amazing what India is doing, and I'm glad that you were able to share that. So now let's jump more into not so much what you're doing on the startup side, but on the investing side. And you've made some great investments. And just before we get into our rapid fire questions, I want to learn a little bit more about the types of things that interest you when you're making investments. And again, this is just high level. So just a few things. Are all of your investments really structured around social impact because they are making a big difference for you and for the economies? Or what types of things do you look for in an entrepreneur when you are going into an investment?
First, this is a very relevant question to my field. I'll tell you, I have a vision of making a cluster of startups, not a cluster of investors. I have a vision of making cluster of startups, those who can help me to fulfill my vision of healing the nature with the help of technology. Like I have successfully implemented my technology to save the groundwater. Now I'm working on air quality index, and how I can improve the air quality index. No, because in COVID situations, you have seen that people were dying about this No, and in Delhi, in Ludhiana, in the big city, in Mumbai, in Chennai, in West Bengal. No, these are the big metro cities and states of India. There is air quality index was very poor before lockdown, and after lockdown is quite okay, but it's not that satisfactory. So I've started working on this part. Basically, what we look for an investor for a startup, for a startup, first we look is the team. The team. Second, we look for the idea. If the idea is making that kind of social impact that suits our vision, first of all, they have to be little bit of not congruent, but similar kind of thing to fulfill our vision. Then we onboard that startup. The second thing we look is the team. And third thing, we look for a person like me, at who has a vision to complete that thing. As simple as that. And then the rest of the thing, the business planning and all, as I said earlier, that I don't only invest in the startups, me and my team help them to grow better. And we don't do that we put our dollars in the startup and then after 3 months, 4 months, we are calling them that what's going on, when we will get our ROI. It's not like that. We monitor the continuous process. We help them that this money will go by this way, this money. We suggest them this thing. It's totally up to them that how they are using our money. It's not, we don't control that, but we suggest them, you should do this thing, you should do this thing. And then they follow that. They are making good impacts.
I love it. So if I was to kind of share how this works, which I love, I think it's very well shared, is that you're going in a direction of social impact. You've started your own companies, and what you're doing is you're layering in companies or technologies that will aid, embed, and grow within your ecosystem of social impact that are fixated around your initial idea. And you're just tethering those in by making investments into that technology that will continue to support and grow so that you're actually growing your business plus all of the companies around you that are supporting that initial drive. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. Very true.
I love it. And the reason why I love that is because in the direction that you're going, if, as you mentioned, you're fixing and working on the water and trying to clean it up and make changes to that, that as you're working with government and working with incubators, accelerators, and the around that as you're working forward in this space and you're bringing in new startups, you're building contracts, you're getting the government to support your initiative. And as that's growing, you're layering in new tech that keeps supporting the mothership of the product you're building. And those other innovations are growing. So you are almost like an includer business. And I don't know, maybe it's an accelerator style, but I just like the idea that in order to make your impact bigger, you need to bring in more innovators and invest in them to keep making your impact more grandiose, if you will. But I like that. That's a great initiative. Can you share how many companies are now part of this moving ship, if you will, of starting from your first company? How many of you started to tether in altogether now?
I'll take the names now. Some of very big names. First startup is Black Eye Technologies Private Limited. That was my first company, my child. And second, we have started with Green Earth Private Limited. Third, we have done the FASLA, where we are making the agriculture supply chain very healthy. Third is Massive Dynamic Private Limited, who's working on sensors with the ECG, cardiology, and all, in healthcare also. Fourth that we have done is Gourmeka Greens. Fifth is Delicious Bites. They are making good, snacks, things for the diabetic and the high blood pressure patients. Fourth, sixth, seventh is Mapic, and these are my founder startups. And these are 4, 5, 6, 5 founder startups. Now coming to the investment part, till now we have invested in as I have told you, 7 companies. The first company that I have invested is Moron. Moron Private Limited. Moron Private Limited is working in electronic vehicles. The second company that I'm very proud of, and these 2 students are working very hard to fulfill this vision. They are, they're making water from oxygen present in the atmosphere. So they're doing very open. They are open oxygen technologies. Third is last. There is hydrocopters. Hydrocopters. We have invested a lot of money in hydrocopters. They are making good defense drones for defense ministry. They are working very close to them. We have actually made that networks. And till now we have the segment. If I'll go by segment for the groundwater, we are there. For the sanitization purpose of water, there is one company. For the air quality maintenance, there is one company. For the maintaining the food and diets, there is one company. So this is the cluster that till now we have made. We have onboarded near about 16 startups, and 17th meetings have been done. Most probably we'll take him on board also. He is on idea stage, and he has a very good idea of making some wonderful technology for moving the things. It's on logistic business. So we are doing that too. These are some startups that we are working very closely and in our network.
Amazing. Well, that all sounds fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. Before we move into our rapid fire questions, I have one question for you, which is, if you were to kind of go through the background and all the startups that you've worked with, the companies you've invested in, and looked at it and said, this story really shares what it is and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Do you have a story that really kind of resonates with you, that it just blew you out of the water, what this founder had to do in order to survive, to win, to be able to become a big, or even just starting to become a real notable startup? Is there anything that kind of sticks out in your mind? We're always looking for that fantastic story that just shows the audience what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
People ask me about these things because I'm the person who was driving electric bike at that time when I was in my struggle time, and now I drive big cars. So they are amazed by this thing, that from me 2, 3, 4 years you have made a lot. You know what? I don't judge people. I'm not that kind of person. I never judge any kind of entrepreneur that what he is doing. But I just make one thing very clear in my mind, that he must make me very comfortable with his pitch so that I can believe in this, that he's not a fraud. As simple as that. And then that he should not misuse my money or anybody else's money, that the other investor in my cluster. 2 things are important. Only 2 things are important to be a successful entrepreneur: patience and planning. The third thing, which is most important, is execution. These 3 things, if I can see in some entrepreneur, I believe them that one day they will be a unicorn. And the last advice, the particular story you want from my side, if there is any Indian guy that would listen to this podcast, I'll definitely tell that ki hum chalte gaye karma banta gaya. That means we started our journey and people has started meeting us. Every entrepreneur has a story. Every entrepreneur has his own struggle, and that struggle is your PR. That struggle is your PR, I must say. That struggle is your PR. Make your PR good, then your success will be good, your investment will be good, and planning will be good, and the execution is the best part.
I like that. I've never heard that before, but I do like that, because it's very common to see that people can make an emotional connection to you because you share where you've come from and the hard take you've had to go through. People can relate, and then people feel comfortable to kind of connect further in with you on that. So that's I like that. Note taken. I love it. Thank you very much for sharing that. Okay, we're going to jump right into this rapid fire questions. Are we ready for these?
Sure, please.
Okay, what is your favorite part of investing?
My favorite part of investing is to fulfill my vision to make a cluster of such startups who can heal the nature with the help of technology.
Okay, I love it. How many companies do you invest in per year?
Near about 7 to 8.
Okay. Any verticals that you like to focus on?
Pardon?
Any verticals? What's the verticals that you like to focus on? Obviously, social impact is going to be a big one.
I have cleared that already, that the social impact, first of all, there's social impact and completing my vision. Definitely, that is one of that.
Okay. Any sort of requirements that you need to make an investment, due diligence requirements? That could be, you mentioned earlier that you're a fan of the team. Is there any paperwork or is there anything that really stands out that you need to have in order to make an investment?
Only one thing, willpower and dedication. The rest documentation will be done by our team.
Willpower and dedication?
That's it.
Okay. Do you like to lead rounds?
Yeah, we are looking to lead rounds from September.
Okay. Do you do follow-on investments?
On what basis?
Will you reinvest in a company? After you've made the first investment, will you reinvest again in the same company?
Definitely.
Okay. Do you take board seats?
We take shares, actually.
Okay. So no, you don't go after any potential board seats, board of advisors, director roles, anything like that inside the company?
We look for some of those guys who can fulfill the requirement of POC and MVP. After that, we do the business analysis that what kind of else they require for sales and other marketing development. Then we invest.
Okay. Last question. Do you have preferred terms that you like to invest on? Is it pref shares? Is it equity? Is it safes? Or you'll invest on all of them?
We invest two ways. First, we can take the profit share. Some of times we can take the profit share. Second, we can take some royalty for the IPs. We can take the IP share. And the last, we go for the equity.
Okay. Well, those are all good ways to roll. And if I think that's it for the rapid fire questions. All right. We're gonna work our way into the last personal side of questions. So, first question: what is your favorite sports team?
Actually, I am not much more in sports, but sometimes I like watching cricket. So I support Indian team a lot.
Okay, perfect.
Mr. Mahendra Singh Dhoni in cricket.
Okay. What is your favorite movie, and what character would you play in the movie?
Okay, my favorite movie is Inception. The Inception, I like the Inception the most, and the lead part I like to play.
So I think in Inception, the lead role was, oh my God, the blonde-haired guy. What's his name? Is it Matthew McConaughey? Is that the Inception? No. Inception is with, oh my God, the other guy. What's his name?
I don't have seen movies from last 2-3 years, so I don't remember the name exactly.
It's a great film.
Leonardo Dicaprio.
Yes, Leonardo Dicaprio. That's the guy I was thinking of. Oh yeah, that's a great movie. I've seen that thing 1,000 times. Yeah, very good movie. Agreed.
I would like to mention one more thing. The Theory of Everything is also very good.
Curious of, what is it?
The Theory of Everything.
Theory of Everything.
Based on Stephen Hawking's. And every IoT, every AI guy and every guy who considered himself as a scientist or a big worker in technology consider that movie as a very good movie.
Oh, yes, I agree. I think I did see that when it came out. Great movie as well. Yes, I like that. Good calls. All right, last question. What is your superpower?
My superpower is I'm very consistent.
All right.
I never lose hope. I just be consistent on that part that it's not being done today, but it's just today. There is a tomorrow. It will be done by tomorrow. But it will be done. It has to be.
I like that it's consistent, but I think I would also add on then, if it's consistent, it would also mean that you're very patient. So you have a strong patience and you must be a planner, because you mentioned these are the things you look for. So I'm going to say that based on all of our conversations, that consistency would also follow with patience. So I'm going to say, Aman, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. I want to thank you very much for all of your time. And what we like to end the show off with is we like to leave you with the last word, which is anything you want to share to investors or to startups, any words of advice or wisdom. I think we've all learned a tremendous amount. We love the vision of where you're going. We like the fact that you're huge on the social impact and you're building a cluster that's going to benefit the world. We thank you for that. And again, thank you for joining us. And we turn it over to you for the last word.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for having me on this wonderful show. And I have 2 lines, one for the investor, one for the startup. For the investors, I request all other investors and other venture capitals, anybody who's investing in any kind of startup, just don't only invest for the money. Invest for the vision the startup has, invest for the impact they will make in future, and invest for their dreams too. They have some dreams to complete. They also want to buy big houses, big cars, and invest for them too. Like for in our investment panel, we have a policy that from the total investment, 2.5% can be easily used by the startups, and we will not question that how you are using that. You can do whatever you want from that 2.5%. And for the startups, I have cleared you guys my 2P formula: patience, planning, and execution. These 3 are the fundamentals to lead a startup. And the most difficult one will be the patience. Believe me, if you'll have the patience with your technology and have faith on that, we haven't covered the IP part. Always complete the thing in your mind that you must have some good copyright on your development technology. So be bit secure also on that part. These are my final words. And thank you so much, Jeffrey, for having me on the show.
Well, that was a fantastic interview with Aman. It was really great to hear how supportive the Indian government has been, really helping investors and entrepreneurs. Not every country has really embraced this, and India has really turned the corner on this in the last few years, which is very exciting. And from some of the things that he pointed out, I'm really enjoyed the part about patience, planning, and execution. I think those 3 really do align nicely with the mantra for an entrepreneur, that does bring a lot of success. And then the other things that he talked about, from supporting the team and that the business is doing well or doing good things for the earth and the planet. I like that. Social impact investing is huge these days, but also just entrepreneurs being able to look at their business and decide how they can make a social impact and how they can change the way the business is running to be able to give back to the world. I think that that's a great thing. Willpower and dedication is some other points that he brought up that really shows, again, the strength of an entrepreneur and an investor. So again, thank you very much today for everybody joining us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or in Stitcher. You can also check us out at supportersfund.com, or for startup events, visit opn.ninja. Thank you. Like us, share, comment. Looking forward to seeing you at the next talk. Have a great day.